Okay, if you build with AI, you know this moment. You're at a crossroads. Do you stick with a simple, clean, single prompt, or do you go all in on something like conversation flow with all its power and control? Get this wrong, and you're suddenly drowning in complexity you never even needed. So today, we're going to demystify this whole thing.
So, how do we make sure we make the right choice? Simple. First, we're going to talk about a mistake that pretty much everyone makes. Then we'll give you a framework for when to actually choose the complex path. After that, we'll take a look inside conversation flow, and we'll finish up with just four simple rules for building.
All right, let's kick things off with what I'm calling a tale of two prompts. And, the one mistake most builders make that can just derail a project from the get-go.
And this quote from Alejo at Amplify Voice AI just nails it. It's so true, right? We see the big, complex tool and we think, oh, that must be better. But it's not an upgrade, it's a different tool for a totally different job. And it comes with a lot of extra baggage.
So what even is conversation flow? Well, think of it like this. It's a tool that lets you become a micromanager for your AI agent. Seriously, instead of just giving it a goal and letting it figure things out, you get to control every single step. Every action, every decision, it's all mapped out by you.
And this slide really breaks it down perfectly. A single prompt, that's like giving someone general instructions, Hey, can you go to the store and get some stuff for dinner? You trust them to be flexible and figure it out. But conversation flow, that's like handing them a super detailed checklist. Item 1, do this. Item 2, do that. Every single box has to be ticked in order. So what you're really choosing between is a natural, free-flowing conversation and a precise, totally controlled operation.
So that's the big question, isn't it? When do you choose one over the other? Let's build a little framework you can use for your next project.
Okay, check this out. It really simplifies the decision. Is your task straightforward, like a simple booking? A single prompt is your friend. But if you've got a task with a bunch of different steps or branches, you'll probably need conversation flow. Same with functions. Just using one or two? A single prompt is fine. But if you need to manage multiple functions in a very specific order, well, that's what the flow is for. And honestly, this last one is the big one. If your single prompt is getting super long and, hairy, that's the universe telling you it's time to switch.
So here's the bottom line, and it's super important. Don't just pick conversation flow because it seems more powerful. You choose it when you absolutely need that level of granular control. It's a tool, not a trophy.
All right, so let's say you've decided, yep, I need that control. So what are you actually getting into? Let's take a quick high-level tour of the toolbox. So you can pretty much boil it down to 4 core building blocks. You've got your converse blocks, which is just when the agent says something. Then you have act blocks, where the agent actually does something, calls a function, sends a text, whatever. Third, you've got decide blocks, and that's the brain. That's where all the logic and branching happens. And finally, the end block, which does exactly what it sounds like. It ends the call, reliably, every time. Now, here's a key idea that can be a little tricky. You've got this global prompt, which is kind of like the AI's main personality and rules. It's always there. But then, each little node in your flow can have its own micro prompt. Think of it like a little Post-it note with instructions just for that one specific step. As soon as that step is done, the AI basically crumbles up the Post-it note and moves on. But it always remembers its main personality from that global prompt. It's a really powerful concept.
And one of the real power tools in this whole toolbox is something called the extract variable node. This thing is amazing. It lets you listen into the conversation or look at what a function returns and just pluck out one specific piece of information, like a date, a time, a number, whatever you need to use for a decision down the road.
Let me give you an example. Imagine you have a function that checks a calendar for open appointments. It might return a whole bunch of data, but with an extract variable node, you can say, hey, ignore all that other stuff, just give me the number of available slots. And boom, it pulls out the number 3, just that one number. And now that we have it, we can get really clever. Because see, this is where that control is so cool. You can set up some hard-coded logic. If that number we just pulled out is 3 or more, great. We'll send the conversation down the offer choices path. But if that number is less than 3, we can automatically switch to the urgency path. Hey, we only have a couple of spots left. That kind of precise, data-driven control, that's the whole point of conversation flow. Okay, so you're ready to jump in and build. But listen, with this much power, it's easy to make a huge mess. So let's wrap up with 4 simple rules, best practices really, to make sure you succeed. And Alejo lays these out so clearly. Rule number 1, design before you build. Seriously, map the whole thing out on paper or something first. If you can't draw it, don't even think about building it. Second, name your nodes clearly. Trust me, trying to debug a flow where every node is just called conversation is a nightmare. Be specific. Third, use that global prompt wisely. Put your universal rules in there, like how to say dates, so it's consistent everywhere. And finally, number 4, test your transitions like crazy. The links between the nodes are where the magic happens, but they're also where things break, so be obsessive about testing them.
And all this really brings us back to one big fundamental question. Conversation flow gives you an incredible amount of control, right? But you always have to ask yourself, when does all that control actually become a constraint? At what point does your perfectly planned out checklist stop your AI from having the natural, human-like conversation your users were hoping for? Figuring out that balance, that's the real art.